All right, welcome to Sea Shanty Night. We got a few people live on chat right now, and I've got lawnmowers going outside of my window, which is fantastic. Thank you, gardeners. Good timing. 4:37 p.m. That's the time to start cutting lawns, I guess. I don't know. All right, so we're going to be talking about sea shanties tonight, and sea shanties are one of my favorite genres of music. Here, let me go back to the title screen. There you go. Work songs. Why am I calling it work songs? Well, because that's what a sea shanty is. A sea shanty is a work song sung by usually merchant sailors, not pirates, not by Navy people, although there are some, you know. Mostly, though, sea shanties were sung by people on cargo vessels, right? And a lot of the times the shanties were for hauling cargo and things like that. And so what makes sea shanties really interesting is that it's an example of like what the common man was singing, you know, a couple hundred years ago. And they're very catchy. They don't require a lot of technical aptitude. In fact, I always kind of laugh whenever I hear like these high-end choirs doing like multi-layer harmonies of like, what would you do with a drunken sailor? Because it's just kind of ridiculous. It's not authentic whatsoever. You know, it's much more authentic to be a little off-key and singing with gusto, right? So we'll learn a little bit about history, a little bit about music, and yeah, well, maybe there's 3 people in chat right now because Portnoy just left. We will maybe have you guys sing a little bit as well. So the word shanty, nobody really knows where the word comes from. The most plausible explanation that I've seen is that it comes from chanter, which is French for to sing. And so it's a chanty, chante. And they were primarily, not all shanties, some shanties were sung on military ships, but most of them were sung on merchant ships. Military ships had a reputation for not liking their sailors singing. They're supposed to be more orderly and have decorum and things like that, although there are some examples of it definitely taking place. They're pretty much from the 1800s. We don't actually have very many sea shanties or work songs from earlier than 1800 or so. There are some from the Middle Ages. There's actually a sea shanty that's like a rowing song from like Roman times, but there's no music for it. It just has the words, you know, and you can imagine just somebody like beating it out to a drum or something, but nobody really knows. And so really, although we think of sea shanties as like being from the golden age of piracy, right, during the English-Spanish conflicts in the Caribbean and things like that, they don't really have anything to do with pirates. You know, they don't come from that time period. They're, you know, 200 years later, you know, there are some songs that are about pirates and things like that, but it's really from the 1800s that pretty much all the songs survive from, and they weren't really written down. Yeah, it's not easy pronunciation. They weren't really written down, right? So, in fact, it was kind of considered bad luck to sing a work song on shore. Not bad luck exactly, but more like, why would you sing a work song when you're not working? You know, like, you know, if you're, I don't know, a dishwasher and you're like, you know, I'm just going to go wash dishes for fun. Like, are you doing that? You're not, you know. And so basically they weren't written down. And we have almost no examples of people from the time period like writing down shanties. There's some good books and you know, a book that I would recommend everyone read, especially if you live in California, as we do, would be Richard Henry Dana's book, 2 Years Before the Mast. And if you've ever been to like Dana Point in San Diego and things like that, he was I think, Harvard student who dropped out of college, at least temporarily, to go kind of travel to the other side of the world, so to speak. And so he became a sailor, and he went around Cape Horn and gave a brutal account of what it was like to go around the Horn. And he basically just kept a diary on his trip, and you know, it was kind of a good experience for him, I think, overall. Like, he was just kind of, I think he was like he was like in Harvard Law, and he's like, you know, I'm just kind of getting bored of this Harvard Law School thing. I just want to see California. This is before it was part of America. It was actually Mexican at the time. And so he goes on a boat, and it's actually one of the few like first-person accounts we have of what California was like in 1835 1835, something like that. 1834, starting 1834, 1835. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you're interested in California history and things like that, it's easy to read. He's a college student. And some of the things are like days 34 to 40 at sea. More sailing. But he talks about what life is like on a ship, and a lot of times we think of these ships as having like hundreds of people on them, right? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Like a sailing ship. Pub songs, yeah, pub songs. There's probably some overlap between Irish music and sea shanties and drinking songs and all this kind of stuff. But there's a lot of definitions too. But technically, a sea shanty is a work song, and so you wouldn't sing it while you're drinking, or the captain has completely lost control of the ship if they're downing grog while hauling heavy boxes, right? It's highly recommend that. It's interesting stuff. You get to hear what life is like on seaboard. His ship, I think, had 6 people on it. Like, it's not like a military ship where you had 30 Marines and 500 sailors and things like that. It had like 6 people on it, and so you have the captain, the first mate, and like 4 sailors, and that was the entire crew. And it's not what I expected. I read the book and I was like, it's pretty good. So yeah, he left Harvard. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they talked about sea shanties in it. So, but all we know from Dana's account is the names of the sea shanties. Don't know the lyrics. All right. And so, these things weren't preserved until the early 1900s, right? And so, who knows what songs they were singing and what were lost? Because really, nobody really wrote them down. And so, a guy by the name of Stan Hugel, I don't know how you pronounce it. He was considered the last shantyman. He actually worked as a shantyman on sailing vessels through, I think, the 1960s or something like that. And he loved singing shanties, and he collected them, and he wrote them down, and he kind of published the Shanties of the Seven Seas or something like that. A Viking longboat. No, yeah, it's funny. No, just like Master and Commander. That kind of boat. There you go. Let's see if I have any shots from it. Yeah, that boat is actually in San Diego now. If you want to walk around and tour it, it's actually at the San Diego Maritime Museum. Yeah, there you go. And so boats like that, they would have I don't know, HMS Mary Rose. That was a medieval ship that went down. Crew 200 sailors, 185 soldiers, 30 gunners. Yes, you're talking like 400 people on a vessel, right? No, they had like 6. And so what happens is that when you have like 4 people, because the captain's not going to be sitting there loading cargo, right? It's too proud and proper for that. He's a gentleman. He doesn't frisbee cowhides off cliffs, which is what they would actually do. A lot of California's coastline is very steep, right? I was just in Big Sur last week, and it's very steep and very hard to get to. And so California's main export at the time was cowhides and cows. Like, there were hundreds of thousands of cows in California in the Mexican period, a lot of them owned by missions and things like that. And they would trade with Yankee traders coming from New England. They would give them the hide, which would be taken back to Boston to be made into leather strips and boots and things like that. And then the traders would sell them silverware and combs and dresses and things like that. And so they would literally frisbee the cowhides off the top of the cliffs, and they would fall down the cliffs, and they would catch them, put them on board. So the captain's too refined for that. So you have 4 people that have to haul these like big things together, and so a sea shanty is there so that people would coordinate their work. There's really 2 main reasons. One is to just get people fired up. Right, like when you're tired and it's like a cold morning and it's blustering and it's raining and you kind of don't want to work, people would start singing to get their spirits up, right? And people still do that today, right? I was in Kyoto, and there were these traditional dancers, and as they go along, they would just kind of say, these things, and everyone would like cheer and get in, and it keeps their spirits going. And they would dance for hours at a time, and singing and dancing are sort of like fundamental human activities that I think we as a civilization have lost, right? In America, you don't get together with your friends and like sing together unless you're like, a choir nerd or something like that, right? But like that's kind of, if you look back at the thousands of years of human history, singing and dancing and music were how people got together and socialized, and we've kind of lost that today. So, as long as you're in the Gal and Seinfeld, that's fair. That's fair. But sea shanties, yeah, you don't have to have a lot of skill. All right, there's the gardener again. Okay. So, Drunken Sailor. So, what's the point of Drunken Sailor, right? Choir nerds are great, thank you. And I mean that with all respect and love, right? My wife was in choir, my daughter is in choir, so miss making music around the campfire. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I do SCA, is that the SCA gives me a chance to be a nerd, and not have, like, if I ask my friends in real life, like, hey, you guys want to get together and dance, and sing together, and like, what the hell are you talking about, dude? Let's go play Halo. Like, what are you talking about? But in the SCA, it's quite normal to be sitting around a campfire, drinking wine, singing shanties, dressed up in medieval clothing and stuff like that, and it's just a cool experience. And there's something very, I don't want to say magical, but there's something very interesting about like a bunch of people just kind of socializing, drinking, singing, that kind of making music together. That's very different from listening to music, right? Like, when you hang out with your friends, you're like, hey, let's listen to sea shanties. That's a very different experience than if you get together and sit around a campfire and sing together and things like that. It's a very different experience. And I think, honestly, as a society, we've lost something, right? A friend of mine was from Trinidad and Tobago, and he said, yeah, just at lunchtime, people would go out into the yard and they would just dance, and somebody would start beating out a rhythm and people would start dancing together, and this is part of the culture. And in America, it's just like, what? I guess you could take a class to learn how to ballroom dance, but it's all like very, like, sign up, it's a 4-unit class, you can learn how to ballroom and waltz. And it's just not part of the normal American culture. And again, I think that's kind of sad. So, contra call dances, square dancing, yeah, that would be a great example. Part of finishing school, yeah. It's like, it's, for some reason in America, it's just like, why would you play music when you can listen to it? It's a different experience. It's a very different experience when you have a friend of yours playing a song on a guitar, singing, and you're singing along. It's a very different experience. Okay, so what is Drunken Sailor about? So, Drunken Sailor is what's called a halyard song. And so, hauling is like when you pull on a rope together. We're talking about sea shanties right now. Beaver? Yeah, okay. So, when people pull on a rope, they need to pull together. Especially if you have a really big yard arm or a really big sail that you're trying to lift up. There's a lot of friction on the line. And so you can't, like, if one person pulls by themselves, it doesn't go up. What you have to do is get a bunch of people all on a line to pull at the same time. And like this, right? This is a naval training vessel. So you get a bunch of people all hauling on the same line, and they need to synchronize. And so you could go like 1, 2, 3, haul. 1, 2, 3, haul. But that's very boring. Why be boring when you can sing a song, right? And so 4 credit class dedicated to singing sea shanties. I would go for that in a second, for sure. Propose it to the dean. So instead, do you guys all know what would you do with a drunken sailor? Do I need to go over that song? Arius,
I think you need to demonstrate this.
What's that?
I think you need to demonstrate drunken sailor.
All right. So Macy, you want to demonstrate drunken sailor for my students?
Why?
I guess that's a no.
What shall we do? Way up she rises, way up she rises, way up she rises, her lying number.
Right. So there is a downbeat. Very good. Very good. There is a downbeat in that song that is when people haul on the rope. So it's way, hey, up she rises. What's going up? The sail or whatever. Way, hey, up she rises. Way, hey, up she rises early in the morning. Right? And so what would you do with a drunken sailor? What would you do with it? That's when you're hauling. That downbeat. Sea shanties oftentimes have a very pronounced, very emphasized downbeat. And that's the point where everybody pulls together. And if you pull together, then it goes up. If you don't pull together, then it doesn't. What's up?
Can't know what to do. We need to pick up a kid.
Okay. I'm doing a workshop right now.
What time?
This is going to be going to 5:30.
Bee's not going to be happy.
She'll be fine.
I'll pick her up then.
Okay. You need money? Alright, it's your money anyway. So. You know, it's stuck in your head. Yeah. So a halyard song is, you're trying to haul the, trying to haul the yard. Okay? And so, yeah, and so there needs, these garners are killing me. It's like they're just walking back and forth outside of my window and doing a workshop. And so with Drunken Sailor, you also have time to walk, right? So you pull, and then you actually walk back a little bit and pull again. That's why there's that time, that fairly substantial amount of time between each pull. Okay. So this would be an example of when you would sing a halyard or a long haul song. And these people up here, these people actually jump on the rope. So these people will actually jump up and hang on to the rope with their body weight to get slack, because there's a little pulley here, right? And so they have to get enough slack in it, and then these people pull. And so there's multiple steps that have to happen at the same time, and they use songs to coordinate all of that stuff. It's a lot easier than being like, all right, Bob, jump. Okay, okay, you guys pull. No, Bob, jump. Rather than doing that, what happens is everybody sings, and on certain beats, these guys do this, and these guys do this, and it synchronizes all the work together, and the work goes very smoothly, and like I said, it gets them motivated. They feel very happy and inspired and things like that. So that's the point of a sea shanty. So there's a lot of lines on a classical sailing vessel. You have a three-master here that's it's got 3 masts that are square rigged, and you've got some sails that are rigged fore and aft in the front and the back. And this is called a sail plan of a sailing vessel, and you can actually see each one of those lines is numbered, and there's a system for like where the ropes are, where they tie down on the ship. Let's see if we have any examples here. Yeah, you can see down here where the lines come down, and they're in a certain order, right? And so if you want to raise this sail or pull, luff it or tighten it or whatever, each one of these lines does something different. And when you become oriented on a sailing vessel, one of the first things you have to learn is like, what does this connect to? What does that connect to? And there's actually a sail plan. You have to memorize it if you want to be a member of the sail crew. Because you can. If you go down to the San Diego Maritime Museum, you can actually sail the boat that was in Master and Commander with Russell Crowe. It's there in the harbor, and it's a working sailing vessel, and they take it out all the time. But in order for you to join the crew, you have to learn the sail plan. And so there's a lot of things that go on there, right? And there's a lot of terminology that goes into a sailing vessel, right? So it's a whole bit of jargon there. Like if you think about it, like the world's economy ran on sailing vessels for centuries, right? And so there's a huge amount of expertise and technical knowledge that is only preserved in a few places around the world. There's not a lot of people that sail these vessels these days, right? The Navy has a training vessel, sailing vessel. Various maritime museums have operational sailing vessels. By and large, though, you've probably gone your whole life without sailing one of these things. Whereas back in the day, that's how you got around. If you wanted to go to California, it was maybe a train, or you take one of these things. Okay. You can't hear them at all? Okay, good. All right, excellent. So have you ever tried coming up with your own sea shanty? You can modify verses all the time. That's part of it, right? One thing to understand is that when you have oral traditions like these things, there's no like one official sea shanty, right? It's not like, Tool comes out with a new album and they publish their lyrics, right? A lot of these songs are just infinitely malleable, right? And if you listen to sea shanties online, there's variances in it, like, all over the place, right? People will change lyrics here and there, and that's part of the fun too. So you can, like when I sang "Made of Amsterdam" last time at a SCA event, I would, took these verses and put them together in a way that maybe had never been done before in human history. Who knows? But all the verses at least came from different sources. So a short haul is when you need to wrap a sail around the yard arm. Okay, so if you have a very strong wind, you can get into trouble on a sailing vessel, right? It can snap the mast if you're in a storm and things like that. And so what will happen is that the sailors will have to go aloft, and this is a kids training vessel, I think. You can see they have harnesses on. Back in the day, they did not have harnesses, right? And these things were not, I don't think, that big either. But look at that. Can you imagine that? This person's like, I don't know, 100 feet up in the air, and you're backwards at a 45-degree angle, climbing up the rat lines and stuff, and you got to pull yourself onto the deck with no harness. I don't know. It doesn't seem like the kind of thing that interests me very much, And what they'll do is that they'll go out on the yard arms like that. Yeah, there you go. Anyone here at show fans want to do that? You don't do that for fun? Hell no. I like having my limbs intact. Portnoy, you want to do that? Cool. All right, so these things... yeah, and imagine, and you're going up because a storm's coming in, right? So the seas are going to be going like this. The boat's going to be going like this. You're going to be, 100 feet up in the air, and that yard is going to be tilting this way and tilting that way, and your feet are on these Flemish horses. And there's going to be a bunch of guys like that, all stretched out along the yard arm, and you're wrapping the sail around the yard, okay? And so what you do... for those types of shanties are called short hauls, because you're not trying to lift a yard up, you're not trying to lift a sail or whatever. Basically, you just need to do a lot of work, because what you do is you reach over that mast, or not a mast, the yard. You reach over and you grab fabric, and you're 100 feet up in the air, the thing's pitching around. You're only attached to the thing by your feet. You got to reach over, grab a bunch of fabric, and haul it up, and then snap it down. And then you do that over and over again until you wrap the sail around the yard. And so this is called a short haul because you're doing a huge amount of work. It's just you and your four buddies up in the sky, and you all have to pull down at the same time to get all the slack out of the sail. And so this is a short haul. Paddy Ryan's Boots would be a short haul song. Way, hey, hey, yeah! We all paid for his boots. And tell me, way, hey, hey, yeah! We'll all get drunk on the gin, or whatever it is. Basically, there's a long delay where you're pulling up the slack, and then it's like, yeah! And you tighten it. And you sing like maybe 3 or 4 verses, and you're done. Right? Short haul songs typically are very, very short songs. Okay. So, parkour, it's fine. It's 9 for all in. Yeah, that doesn't really interest me. And that guy has got a harness on, right? You can see he's got a safety clip or something. Not authentic whatsoever. If you were authentic, you would put your life on the line for your art. Yeah. No thanks. All right, so capstan songs I like a lot. So imagine you got an anchor, right? Your anchor is 100 feet down, touching the seafloor, keeping your ship from blowing around in the middle of the night. You got a line running down to the anchor, right? So the anchor is raised by what's called a capstan, okay? And so there are these holes, these square holes in it. You get a wooden stick that's really big. The bigger it is, the more leverage, and it's got a square end to it, and you stick it in. These things are called pawls, P-A-W-L, which means pole, but they're spelled pawls because it's, there's maritime terminology for literally everything. So you stick the pawl in, and then you and your buddies walk around. Now, to synchronize, you have to step together, right? So you're pushing up the anchor with every step. And so these songs have a very distinctive rhythm to them, right? And they're different from Way Hey Up She, rises, right? Way Hey Up she rises, way, hey, up she right. There's a long delay and then one big downbeat with Paddy Ryan's boots, Paddy Doyle's boots. You way, hey, hey, yeah, right. There's a long delay and then one big explosive burst of energy. A capstan song sounds like a march. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. So would the Last Sailor be in this category? Which Last Sailor? The Last Sailor actually would probably be the Shantyman. So the Shantyman, one of the nice things about being the Shantyman, the person who sings the songs that keeps everybody in time, is that they would typically sit on the capstan like this, and they would play a flute, or somebody might have a drum, and they would call out the shanty and keep everybody in time together. And then he would just sit there and spin around on the boat. I don't know if I have any pictures of it, but that's a capstan right there. Look at that. That's, you got 2 people per pawl, and you got 16 pawls or something like that. That's a lot of people pushing on that anchor. Right? See that our culture's in a spot where I actually recognize all these sea shanties. I like it too. So, interesting. A capstan song would be like, how am I blanking on the name? Randy Dandio. Now we are ready to head for the Horn. Way, hey, roll and go. Our boots and our clothes, boys, are all in the pond to be rollickin' randy dandy-o. Heave a paw, heave away. Way, hey, roll and go. The anchor's on board and the cable's all stored to be rollickin' randy dandy-o. So you hear that beat, beat, beat. In each one of these, you take a footstep. And that's a capstan song, right? They're very distinctive. It's like step, 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 kind of like a march or something like that. Okay. You need to get everybody pushing at the same time so the thing moves, right? All right. So short haul, long haul, capstan song, and then there are these things called windlass songs, which if you're working the pumps down below. Ships would fill with water, and so you would have to pump the water out. And so those go fum, ba, fum, ba, fum, ba, fum, ba, like that. And then there are forecastle or four-biter songs, which are technically not sea shanties because they're not work songs, but this is one of these perennial debates about what is a sea shanty. And the most strict definition is it's a work song, right? If you're talking about hauling cargo and pushing a capstan and things like that, that's when you're working and you're synchronizing people, and that's the most strict definition of a sea shanty. But if it's sailors at sea singing, but they're not working, is that a sea shanty? Some people will say yes, some people will say no. I don't really care. They're pretty cool songs. And so these songs oftentimes don't have that distinctive rhythm because they're just, people are sitting in the forecastle. The forecastle is where the sailors sleep and hang out and entertain themselves when they're not working. And they'll sing songs. And a lot of times the songs about missing home, there's songs you sing when you're leaving. There's songs you sing when you're about to return home. There's songs you sing when you're at sea and you miss home. Old Maui is a classic four-biter song where it's a damn tough life full of toil and strife we whalermen undergo. And we don't give a damn when the gale is done, how hard the winds do blow. For homeward bound is a grand old sound of mighty old ship tight and free. See, there's not a strong, beat to it. But it's talking about, we don't give a damn when we drink our rum with the girls of old Maui. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, rolling down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic crown, rolling down to old Maui. There's not poof, 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 like that. It's just a song they sing at sea. So is it a sea shanty? I don't know. I don't care. And then there's songs about the sea, right? Are those sea shanties? They weren't sung by sailors, but they're about the sea. And so there's a whole bunch of pirate songs and modern day songs that people make about pirates and the Jolly Roger and like stuff like that. Is that a sea shanty? Yeah, not really, but it's a song about the sea, so maybe it is. I don't know. I don't really care. So there's different definitions that people use for sea shanties, but the most technical definition is a work song. Okay, and forecastles aren't technically shanties, but to me, if they were sung by merchantmen at sea, good enough. I don't really care so much about modern pirate songs and things like that. All right, so that is the types of sea shanties. I'm gonna now play some for you guys. I'm gonna have to pause the recording because the last time I did this, I got copyright struck. But I'll play some and then we can sing them together. If you're watching this at home, I would like for you to Google some sea shanties. Some good places to start would be like the Assassin's Creed Black Flag soundtrack. This is fantastic. I don't like all of them, but they're overall pretty good. If you look at the soundtrack for Assassin's Creed Black Flag, there's 35 sea shanties on it, and so this is a good mix here. It's a 10-minute long of some good ones, and so you can I don't know, if you're at home watching this, pick 4 or 5 of them. Tell me what the theme is. Tell me what rhythm. Tell me what type of shanty it is. Okay, so does it sound like a long haul where you've got a downbeat and a few minutes of pausing, and it's bringing up my Japanese lessons? It's funny. Is it a short haul, or is there a big explosive burst and a longer recovery? Is it a capstan where it's boom, 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 boom? Okay. So see if you can figure that out. And do that for like 4 or 5, and tell me what the theme is, tell me what type of shanty it is, and tell me if you like it or not and why, that kind of stuff. So that's your essay requirement if you're not watching this live. If you watch it live, if you are Margaret, Daniel, Sims, Portnoff, or Meredith, then for your essay, just write, I was there and I sung with the professor. And you don't have to write a 2-page essay. Yeah, easy. Okay, so the Sailboat Malarkey. No Malarkey tour, Joe Biden. All right. So, yeah, there's Spanish Ladies is good. Roll Boys Roll is a really good one, too. Longest Johns is a fantastic group. These guys. They're good. The Dreadnought, Stan Weagle is another good one. So that's another good place to start there. Another one I like is it's also called Roll. Yeah, David Coffin has a fantastic version. This one here, it's just from, I think, the Mystic Seaport Sea Shanty Festival. It's on New England somewhere. And this is actually a really good rendition as well. So, so that's it. I'm going to pause the recording now, and we'll just sing together for, 20, 30 minutes, and call it a day. All right. And again, if you're at home, 4 or 5 sea shanties, name, type of shanty, theme, what you like, don't like about it. All right. And write it in essay form along with what you learned, and I look forward to reading what you write. All right. Peace out.